Hi, my name is Evelyn Valenzuela, and I'm going to be answering our class's first question today. It is, how are educational and school psychs similar and how are they different? NASP defines a school psychologist as uniquely qualified members of school teams that support students' ability to learn and teachers' ability to teach. School psychologists are experts in health behaviors and learning to help children succeed academically, socially, behaviorally, and emotionally. School psychology is a more general practice, and school psychologists can provide a range of psychological diagnosis, assessment, and interventions. A school psychologist practices in the branch of educational psychology and both go hand in hand. Give me 1 second. According to APA's website, educational psychology is defined as a branch of psychology that studies children in an educational setting and is concerned with teaching and learning methods, cognitive development, and aptitude assessment. Educational psychology was first established the same year that the American Psychology Association was established in 1884. So one of the first people to do actual research in the field of educational psychology was Joseph Mayer Rice. He did a study on teaching methods, and it was sort of discredited. Teachers didn't really want to hear that they were doing things wrong, and they actually, from the resources that I saw, some people were very angry at him for even saying these things, because at the time of his actual research, nobody had done a scientific study on how teachers should actually teach, and it was more religious based and discipline based at that point. But this all changed in the year 1912 when school officials actually asked for a measure that can see what kind of success works in school and teaching methods that work well with students. So that marks pretty much a historic day in educational psychology, because they were actually more accepting of new science and gave away some of their old science that they were using on their children. And this led to more research and paved the way for educational psychologists today. Stanley Hall actually was the first president of the APA Association. Oh, APA, just APA. He was one of the first people to actually want to do a classroom-based research study rather than just use a laboratory and watch people from there. And he wanted to see people in their natural settings. So this all changed. Oh, sorry. Hold on. The main outcome of that study was that it was important to teach children that objects were what they were and like where they came from and relationships that objects had with that. So that's really important, because that's something that we still all hold today. Like, the research Hall conducted in 1897 directly affects educators' methods of teaching children from different backgrounds, because it's kind of language-based, the research he was doing, because he was like, he was telling teachers that you can't just assume that kids know what objects are just because they know what one thing is. Like, for example, just because a child can say, oh, that's a cow, the child doesn't know that that cow can also produce leather. So you need to explain things like that to children. And so that was very influential too in educational psych. Then we go to Thorndike, who is probably one of the more popular people in educational psychology. He talked a lot about methods of teaching as well, and Rice kind of paved the way for him as well. So he had 3 methods that he also developed this understanding that psychology can help education and it should be used as a basis for it. So he had 3 methods as to which psychology would be useful in education, or why it needs to do with each other. Like, education and psychology go together. And his reasons were that the first one was just the outright law of human nature. He meant by this that already learned skills may interfere with the current subjects we are trying to teach, and it may be useful to select a method of teaching that will reduce the interference of the old skills, like reduce the interference from the old skills to a minimum without weakening the new skills. Or no. Yes. Okay. So, yeah. He wanted to reduce this interference from the old skills to a minimum without weakening the old skills and keeping the proper function of the skill. So, what he meant by that is he wanted to maintain the functionality of the old skill that we learned just from being humans, while teaching new skills that weren't just innately learned. The second one is that it can be useful to use actual work experience as a starting point for learning. So like things that you already know can be useful in helping, like as being milestones to get to where you want to be in learning. Third, I quote, because of its procedure for measuring knowledge and skill, psychology could also suggest means of testing, verifying, or refuting the claims of any teaching method. This kind of goes with what Rice was saying. There's a more scientific approach to figuring out what methods we can use to, or what methods are good for teaching, and we can prove it with actual scientific proof using psychology. So that really goes hand in hand. Psychology and education go together. Yeah, that's what I have on Thorndike. And now, yes. So looking at the different types of psychologists that appear after the development of educational psychology, there emerged two main types. So there's two, a school psychologist and an educational psychologist. One main difference between the two types are the clientele that each are qualified to work with. A school psychologist has a narrower base of people that you can work with. So it's more children that are school-aged and have learning and behavioral issues, while an educational psychologist can focus on adult learners as well as those children. So right now we're working on our PhDs in educational psychology with an emphasis in school psych, which I think is really cool because we get kind of both ends of it and we get to do a lot of research. So yeah, that pretty much answers your questions. Yeah, sorry I was so nasally, kind of have the sniffles. Okay, bye.